Welcome to the Fantasy NASCAR podcast brought to you by racefortheprize.com. Let's play around with some builds for the Kansas race. This is pre-qualifying and practice, but let's be honest. Do you really expect any surprises in practice? Do you really expect any surprises in qualifying? We might see a mid-tier driver that is affordable qualify towards the back, or even a top-tier driver qualify towards the back, and then obviously we are going to push them up. But in terms of our hogs or our dominators, the drivers that we're expecting to lead laps, nothing's really going to change. We know who will lead laps. We've got our eyes on them. And so then maybe it shifts to value a little bit. But if you've watched my previous podcast where we talked about, that C class, that LM class, the Le Mans class, the Lemons class, who can finish towards the top of that? That's who we want to target. So it doesn't matter really what they do in practice, because we know in the Lemons class that we see down here who has generally had speed, and you can go into that podcast and see the details. We know amongst the Lemons who's going to finish the highest and in the middle and probably towards the bottom. I don't think practice at Kansas is necessarily going to tell us too much. Now, we do have to be aware or cognizant of starting position, because although we may be able to identify the driver that's going to be the best in this class, we then also have to factor in, you may win the class. Like, say, Corey LaJoie is the fastest among this Lemons class and finishes 22nd or even gets the boost at the end. But we have to have the caveat of, cool, we need place differential too. So although we may not necessarily love a Daniel Hemrick or possibly a Todd, I like Todd Gilliam. I like Daniel Hemrick in this race. But maybe you don't like Zane Smith as much. But if Zane Smith comes in qualifying towards the bottom of the field at the back of the pack, although he's probably not going to win the Lemons class, if he can finish in the midway part of the Lemons class, mainly benefiting from attrition, the drivers having mechanical failures, and then the way that this Kansas race plays out with plenty of cautions due to drivers running up against the wall, scraping the wall, blowing a tire, resetting the field, keeping everyone on the lead lap, allowing people to have the opportunity to fight in the end, then a Zane Smith who may not win the class could be the best point per dollar play. So, that is something we have to factor in later. But for the most part, we can kind of play around and build now. And that's what we will do, is play around and build now. And so the first thing that we'll talk about is, so what do we know? And that's basically that Hamlin and Larson really have been the class of the field this season, and they have been the class of the field at Kansas. I have no problem slotting them in as two drivers that can really exceed these conservative projections, because we're not factoring in the hog points or the lap sled points or the fast lap points, the dominator points, however you want to categorize, classify, whatever resonates with you. You put those in and they get monster scores, and they've got to be in your lineup. And if we're looking for those two guys that score those big points running up front all day, it's Hamlin, it's Larson. Right now, could the practice sway us a little bit? I don't really think that it will. I don't want to honestly allow Kansas practice to push me off of Hamlin or to push me off of Larson. They're fast at this track. Hamlin is, as I said in previous videos, he may not show a lot in practice, but why show a lot in practice? I mean, here's something that we don't talk a lot about, but Hamlin does, but doesn't necessarily say what he says. And it's that there's parity, we're all even, we're all equal, all the data is shared. And one of his complaints, like at Martinsville specifically, was that, or even Pocono, where he was dominant 10 years ago, 14 years ago. No one could beat Hamlin. No one could beat him at Pocono or Martinsville. And it's because he knew something that they did not know. But now the secrets are gone. SMT data is shared with everyone, which he doesn't come outright and complain about. but he does to the most part. Like, we all know what we're doing, so there's no secrets. So guess what Hamlin seems to do anymore is that when he goes into practice, he doesn't show a lot, doesn't reveal a lot of cards. This guy is, playing 4D chess. Let's be honest. As I said before, he is AI. He is the algorithm. He is the ham bot. And if you don't believe me, then shame on you, because watch it every week. Like, oh, well, he doesn't have any speed in practice. Or, I don't know, I got to go with the flashy option. And then as the laps tick away, and yes, he does benefit from a very good pit crew, but he's going to benefit from that very big pit crew this week. In the end of the race, there he is screaming about, I beat your favorite driver. So maybe we could change the the AI a little bit. I guess they did, so he doesn't say that anymore. But the guy is super smart. He is the heel too at the moment, so it's great. Whatever. Hamlin, Larson, I just don't see any reason to get away from them. So you just slot them in, right? Boom. Then we look at these different. I think Ryan Blaney is underpriced at 8,600. Can he run in the top 5? Yes. And if he runs in the top 5, will he scrape off fast laps? Yes. And a top 5 finishing position. Sweet. At 8,600. All right, let's just slot him in. So then you move on to what you're probably going to look at is somewhere in this category or to this smaller class of, these top 10 drivers that are not leading laps. It's Logano, Bowman, Keselowski, Buescher. Pick your poison. Ultimately, once we make the final decision, it's going to be a place differential situation. And I know Keselowski and Buescher, as we talked about in previous videos, haven't had the most speed, but the reality is they do produce results. Well, Keselowski didn't finish well at Dover. Yeah, he wrecked. Buescher hasn't been running very well, to be quite honest. So if I am playing the magic man, the smoke and mirrors, the steel one in the end, pit strategy, it's clearly Brad Keselowski. Bowman, yes, did well at Dover. He always does well at Dover. I don't value him as much in a race where there are going to be drivers that finish much better than where they run. And Brad Keselowski this season has been a driver who can perform that miracle. Buescher has done it a little bit as well, but BK is the guy, right? He is the strategist. Logano probably my least favorite from that group. Maybe we go down towards some savings here and dabble in the Gregson, Suarez, Briscoe with our 4th pick if we are going with the Blaney model. Gregson, Briscoe, top 15 cars, pushing top 10 cars. We want to look for place differential from them. They have enough speed. They can get it done. One of the benefits of Suarez is that he has been qualifying poorly and he has pulled off the magic of the finishing better than running position. So he is there. Barry is kind of a under the radar pick that I don't think anyone wants to go to, and he gives you a little bit more savings. So he's also worth consideration. But I believe I'm going to have enough to go up to these drivers, which I think Logano, Bowman, Keselowski, Buescher are a little bit better when we're coming to finishing position. And again, none of this is going to change come qualifying. So really, honestly, where we sit, it's Saturday morning. We're having fun. We love NASCAR. I love doing this. I love producing extra content. I love that you are here. I'm very blessed that you guys are checking it out and the content's coming out and everything's going well. Like, subscribe, shares. You can really help out with the McDonald's purchases, which I think I'm going to do here in a little bit, is treat my son to a Happy Meal. 6-piece nugget. We graduated from 4-piece to 6-piece. I didn't know that a couple months ago. And it's like, where's the rest of the nuggets, bro? Eat the apples, maybe. I don't want these apples. And what's with this small fry? And this toy sucks and the shirts don't fit. I'm getting into a Lex Luger rant. No, but more content, more subscribers. $30 for the month of May. Venmo, PayPal, Cash App. Send it over. I'll give you access to the sheets. big month of racing. You want to get in on this. It's fun. I'm glad that you're here. I'm going to save you time. Makes it easier to build lineups. And if it's easy and it's fun, then you're having fun. You're one of us. It's all great, great. So Hamlin Larson, fine. Now maybe we pivot to a Reddick, Byron, Truex. That's fine as well. They're all generally in the same price. So that doesn't really change the build that much. Slot them in, change them in. If you've got access to the fantasy NASCAR spreadsheet, you can do that. And then it seems like Ryan Blaney is just this piece that unlocks a lot of different plays. So we'll slot him in. Again, you could pay a little bit more for Ross Chastain, which I don't mind as well, because although he hasn't been running that well this year and he didn't run that well in the fall last year, but as we know, that was a part of that mid-season slump. He did kind of turn it on towards the end. This is a track where you can be aggressive on restarts. I don't want to completely dismiss Blaney. If I can get to Elliott, that would be great, but it is getting kind of pricey there. Gibbs, maybe we consider once we see practice. I just have a hard time paying for Bubba Wallace at 9,500. I know he's been good at Kansas. I know 2311's been great at Kansas. But boy, it is tough to get there when, hey, Blaney's been good at Kansas. He's been good at plenty of other tracks, and he's a lot more cheap. So, and I don't think he gets into as many situations. Either way, number 3, Blaney. We'll take one value right now to start out with Gilliland. We'll slot in Keselowski in that category. So then it really just leaves us, because I like Gilliland a lot, but you can swap him out. I've got 6,200 to mess around with in this Lemons class. So in the Lemons class, it's going to eliminate McDowell. Now you're saying, well, what if I go a little bit? There's really nowhere you can go. You can go down to 5,000 to Haley, and that's going to open you up to 6,400, or not with Haley, with Derek Kraus, which I would not suggest that you do in the Lemons class, because Gilliland's just so cheap. If you were to downgrade Gilliland to Kraus, you get $200 more, but it's not going to really open your lineup other than to give you Hosever, which, again, if we are looking at that Lemons class, the only real way I want to go to Hosever is that if he really has a poor qualifying session. So nothing is really unlocked for that. So for the most part, when we can't get to Stenhouse, who I really like this week, and as I've documented in previous videos, the speed is there. And you can actually see it on the screen. You can see, as we explained before, at Dover, before his incident, his average running position was 11th. At Texas, his average running position was 19th. And the field's going to see he finished 35th at Dover, Stenhouse, Spinhouse, Recky, and you're right. He does wreck, and it is a volatile pick. And one of the comments again last week was, I'm not playing Ricky again. Stop putting me through this trauma. I know we put ourselves through it, but if everybody else is bailing on Recky Spinhouse, then this might be the time to get in. He's got that good juju from getting the contract extension. This guy has some strong connections with Kroger. I like Kroger. It is a very solid Midwest grocery store. They bought Harris Teeter, a good Southern Mid-Atlantic grocery store if you're doing your scoreboard rankings. Piggly Wiggly, not so high. Food Line gets the job done, but not my first choice. But unfortunately, if you are living in the Carolinas, you just got to accept that Food Line is always there, and it's the one that you got to go to if you don't live in an upclassed society that has a Harris Teeter. So that's where you go. Or a Publix or a Lowe's Food. Sneaky good grocery store. Those are your fantasy grocery store rankings. You can give me yours if you would like. Where does Whole Foods sit? I don't know. I don't know where to put that one. So we can't get to Stenhouse. We can't get to Cindric. We can't get to McDowell in this build. If you wanted to get to them, the requirement would be to drop Keselowski and to go down to this second section of let's open it up to a little bit more maximized savings. So if we get off them and we go down here and open up Briscoe, then it does give us access to everyone in the lemons class, which Austin Dillon has been very good at Kansas in the past. Check out the data, but this year's been a struggle. But again, if he avoids bad luck, then very possibly could be the play of the slate. McDowell, again, you look at Texas, before his incident, he was running pretty well. Don't really love going there. Cindric is running a lot better. They are making little baby step improvements. So anyway, all those guys are on board. If you go down to this secondary tier here in the mid pack. Now, if I have Gilliland, that's basically my build. So you can go with the Kozlowski build or the Briscoe build. And again, you can swap out anybody in this category or this category. Then we're down here in the values. Everyone's unlocked. I like Stenhouse. I think Dillon, if he can, Dillon, that's what we're going to, I think that weird slip might be the play. Dillon and Gillen, Dillon. Anyway, I don't want to completely give up on the same thing as Stenhouse has burned people. Dillon has burned people, but it is an RCR car. And I mean, if we were looking at this lemons class, Austin Dillon really doesn't belong in this class. He should far surpass them. If anyone is going to not only win the class, but then flirt with the top 10, to Dillon. Then if I were to say the next of like who could be the top of this class and then flirt with the top 10, it would be Stenhouse. The rest, I don't think have quite the upside. Maybe McDowell gets the top 15, Cindric gets the top 15. But again, these guys might start closer to the front. That might hurt us. If we are forced, if we do want to change the build, that we want to upgrade Blaney to one of these top tier drivers, and we'll do that, which is going to require us to go really cheap. Let's go with, we'll go with last season's winner. And you can mix and match however you want. I don't think I really want to go this route, so you can't even afford that. Maybe though you could afford Chase Elliott. Maybe one of these drivers offers some place differential. Let's see, if we go Elliott, we get to 5,600. All right, so that's a conversation. So now we're looking at the C class, the Lemons class, the LM class. We got 5,600. Smith, Hemrick, Gillen. I don't really like the guys that I haven't highlighted that much. It's fine. I should really consider Haley, considering he has been optimal in 3 of the last 4 Kansas races. And let's upgrade that. He's changing the color. Oh, no, I don't want to change the text. I want to change the actual fill for the folks at home. And I know that this is, that wasn't a colored car and he's in a Rick Ware car. That's true. The colored car last year is better than his current Rick Ware car, but the current Rick Ware car is not terrible. So he is worth consideration. And really, we just want a guy to hang on to the lead lap and then finish better than where they run. And then finally, Haley becomes a play if he starts towards the back. And that's really what we are thinking about. It's not necessarily under this 5,600 that we have. We got 5.6K. And so we can go with Hemrick, Smith. We've already got Gilly in the lineup. Maybe we consider some of these guys that we don't like. But really, it's, okay, who can finish the best amongst this lemon class so they can maximize finishing position? But then at the same time, if one of them starts a little too close to the front and just doesn't score fantasy points, then they're just not an option. Think that'll do it. Think this video was pretty helpful. Hopefully it was pretty helpful. If it was, hit that like button, subscribe, share. May package $30 at racefortheprize.com. Love having you guys here. Truly blessed. Trip to Light, fantastic.